When my father looked me straight in the eye during Sunday dinner and declared that I was wasting my life as just a secretary and would never build anything meaningful, he had absolutely no clue that I was the founder and CEO of the very tech company his insurance firm had been desperately trying to land as a client for the past 6 months. What unfolded next would completely shatter his understanding of success, ambition, and the daughter he had been underestimating for 29 years. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Sunday evening light filtered through the lace curtains of my parents' dining room in Cedar Park, casting long shadows across the polished oak table that had witnessed decades of family gatherings, celebrations, and the kind of conversations that shape relationships for better or worse. The familiar scent of my mother's homemade enchiladas mingled with the tension that always seemed to hover just beneath the surface during these weekly family dinners, creating an atmosphere that was simultaneously comforting and suffocating. My name is Emma Rodriguez, and at 29 years old, I had perfected the art of being invisible in plain sight. To my family, I was the disappointment, the one who had somehow failed to live up to the Rodriguez family standards of achievement and success. According to their understanding, I worked as an administrative assistant at Henderson & Associates Marketing, a mid-sized firm downtown where I supposedly spent my days answering phones, filing paperwork, and scheduling meetings for people who actually mattered in the business world. The irony was so profound it sometimes kept me awake at night, staring at the ceiling of my luxury downtown condo that my family had never seen, wondering how long I could maintain this elaborate performance that had started as a practical necessity and evolved into something far more complex and emotionally exhausting than I had ever anticipated. Every Sunday at 6 o'clock sharp, the Rodriguez family assembled around this same dining room table in the house where I had grown up, where my mother Linda still displayed my high school graduation photo next to my siblings' more impressive achievements. The tradition had been established over 20 years ago, back when Michael and I were teenagers, and family dinners were simpler affairs focused on homework completion and weekend plans rather than professional accomplishments and financial milestones. Now, these gatherings had transformed into weekly performance reviews, where success was measured in salary figures, job titles, and social recognition. My father, Robert Rodriguez, had spent 35 years building his reputation as one of Austin's most successful insurance sales managers, and he expected his children to exceed his achievements in their own respective fields. His definition of success was straightforward and unforgiving. Make more money than he did, achieve higher social status than he had, and contribute something tangible to the world that could be easily explained and immediately understood by anyone who asked. My older brother Michael had satisfied these expectations by securing a position as marketing director at First National Bank of Texas, where his salary, benefits package, and professional trajectory aligned perfectly with our father's vision of appropriate career development. At 32, Michael embodied everything our father valued about professional success: steady advancement, respectable income, and the kind of job that could be described in 2 sentences at neighborhood barbecues and church social events. His wife Ashley had further elevated the family's social standing through her successful real estate career, specializing in luxury homes in the Cedar Park and Leander areas. Her Instagram feed showcased the lifestyle that came with closing million-dollar deals, and her presence at family dinners always included casual mentions of her latest sales victories and the prominent clients who trusted her with their most significant financial investments. My younger sister Sophia had chosen a different path, but one that still earned paternal approval through its obvious social value and stable income potential. As a registered nurse at Dell Seton Medical Center, she contributed to society in ways that were immediately recognizable and universally respected. Her work saved lives, provided comfort to families during their most vulnerable moments, and offered the kind of job security that our father understood and appreciated. Then there was me, occupying the chair closest to the kitchen door in what had become my designated position as the family member whose professional contributions required the least discussion and generated the least pride. According to the carefully constructed narrative I had maintained for the past 5 years, I earned $35,000 annually performing basic administrative tasks for other people's businesses, contributing nothing original or valuable to the economy and demonstrating a troubling lack of ambition that concerned everyone who cared about my future. The reality of my situation was so dramatically different from this perception that I sometimes felt like I was living in parallel universes, shifting between them with the calculated precision of an undercover operative whose mission required maintaining multiple identities without ever allowing them to intersect or contaminate each other. TechFlow Solutions, the company I had founded during my final semester at the University of Texas, had grown from a dormitory room startup into one of Austin's most successful software development firms, generating $12 million in annual revenue and employing 45 talented professionals who created custom digital solutions for businesses throughout Texas and beyond. Our client roster included major restaurant chains, retail operations, professional services firms, and government agencies that relied on our expertise to streamline their operations, enhance their customer experiences, and achieve the kind of efficiency that translated directly into improved profitability and competitive advantage. The company's success had been built on my ability to identify market gaps and develop innovative solutions that addressed real business problems with elegant, user-friendly software that didn't require extensive technical knowledge to implement and maintain. Our flagship product, a comprehensive customer relationship management system designed specifically for small and medium-sized businesses, had revolutionized how our clients managed their operations, tracked their performance, and planned for future growth. The financial rewards of this success had exceeded my most optimistic projections from those early days when I was writing code in my college apartment and dreaming about building something meaningful that could make a genuine difference in how businesses operated. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My personal net worth had reached $8.2 million, generated through equity ownership, strategic reinvestment, and the kind of careful financial planning that had allowed me to build wealth while maintaining the modest lifestyle that supported my cover story. The downtown Austin high-rise condominium where I actually lived featured floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lady Bird Lake, custom Italian furniture, and a home office equipped with the latest technology for managing international business operations and video conferences with clients across multiple time zones. The building's amenities included a rooftop pool, state-of-the-art fitness center, and concierge services that reflected the lifestyle of someone who had achieved significant financial success through entrepreneurial excellence and strategic business development. But my family had never seen this apartment, never witnessed the lifestyle that my actual income could support, and never experienced the version of Emma Rodriguez who confidently led board meetings, negotiated million-dollar contracts, and made strategic decisions that affected dozens of employees and hundreds of business clients who depended on our continued innovation and reliable service delivery. Instead, they knew only the carefully constructed alternative reality where I lived in a modest North Austin apartment, drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic, and struggled to make ends meet on an administrative assistant's salary that barely covered basic living expenses and left no room for the kind of financial planning or investment strategies that characterized my siblings' more successful career trajectories. Maintaining this deception had required extraordinary attention to detail and psychological compartmentalization that grew more challenging as the company's success generated opportunities for public recognition, industry awards, and professional networking events where my achievements might be witnessed by someone who could inadvertently compromise the privacy protection that had become essential to preserving family relationships and avoiding the complex dynamics that would inevitably result from revealing the truth about my professional status. The decision to conceal my business success had been motivated initially by practical considerations related to competitive advantage, client confidentiality, and the need to operate without unwanted attention from competitors, investors, or potential acquisition targets who might complicate the strategic independence that had enabled our rapid growth and market positioning. The technology industry in Austin was relatively small and interconnected, particularly among entrepreneurs and business owners who regularly attended the same conferences, networking events, and social gatherings where information about successful companies and their founders could spread quickly through professional and social networks. However, as the deception extended beyond its original business purposes, it had evolved into something more psychologically complex and emotionally challenging. The weekly family dinners had become exercises in patience and self-control as I listened to career advice, professional development suggestions, and expressions of concern about my apparent lack of ambition and limited prospects for future advancement. The conversations followed predictable patterns that had been established years earlier when my siblings began achieving conventional markers of professional success, while my own career remained mysteriously stagnant and unremarkable, according to family understanding. The questions were gentle but persistent, focusing on basic aspects of employment that assumed minimal responsibility and intellectual engagement rather than the strategic leadership and innovative problem-solving that characterized my actual daily responsibilities. Tonight's dinner had followed the familiar trajectory through updates on recent professional accomplishments, social events, and material acquisitions that demonstrated continued upward mobility and financial stability. Michael had discussed his promotion to senior marketing director and the salary increase that would allow him and Ashley to consider upgrading to a larger house in one of Cedar Park's most desirable neighborhoods. Ashley had contributed details about her record-breaking sales month and the luxury vacation to Costa Rica that would serve as both celebration and business development opportunity for cultivating relationships with high-net-worth clients. Sophia had shared news about her acceptance into a specialized cardiac nursing program that would enhance her clinical skills while providing opportunities for increased responsibility and compensation within the hospital's growing cardiac care department. Her achievements earned immediate recognition and extended questioning about future career possibilities, salary improvements, and the potential for advancing into nursing administration or specialized clinical roles that would further establish her professional reputation. The conversation had naturally progressed toward my professional situation, as it inevitably did during these gatherings, with the same tone of polite concern mixed with barely concealed disappointment about my apparent lack of career development and professional growth. The questions were predictable and slightly patronizing, delivered with the kind of gentle encouragement typically reserved for someone whose potential remained largely unrealized despite adequate opportunity and family support. My mother had initiated the inquiry with her characteristic diplomatic approach, asking about developments at Henderson and Associates and whether I had received any recognition for my contributions or opportunities for increased responsibility within the organization. Her questions reflected genuine maternal concern, combined with hope that I might eventually demonstrate the kind of professional initiative that had characterized my siblings' career advancement. My father's contribution to this discussion had been more direct and considerably less diplomatic. His assessment of my professional situation reflected 35 years of business experience and strong opinions about career development, workplace, advancement, and the personal characteristics that separated successful professionals from those who remained stuck in entry-level positions throughout their working lives. The moment that would define the evening and potentially transform our family relationships had arrived when my father set down his coffee cup, looked directly at me with the serious expression he reserved for important conversations, and delivered his assessment of my career limitations with the kind of blunt honesty that characterized his approach to family communication and personal development guidance. The words that followed would demonstrate just how spectacularly wrong even the most well-intentioned assumptions could be when they were based on incomplete information and conventional measures of professional achievement that failed to recognize innovative approaches to business success and entrepreneurial excellence that operated outside traditional corporate structures and established career pathways. The familiar sounds of family conversation filled the Rodriguez dining room as evening settled over Cedar Park, transforming the suburban landscape into a tapestry of golden porch lights and the distant hum of air conditioning units working against the lingering Texas heat. This was the environment where Emma had learned to navigate complex social dynamics, where success was measured in tangible achievements, and where every conversation carried the weight of generational expectations that had been carefully cultivated over decades of immigrant ambition and American dream fulfillment. The dining room itself reflected Linda Rodriguez's careful attention to creating an atmosphere of middle-class respectability and cultural pride. Framed photographs lined the mantelpiece above an unused fireplace, documenting family milestones, graduations, and celebrations that marked the steady progression of the Rodriguez children through various stages of academic and professional development. His experience within the insurance industry had taught him that success required persistent effort, relationship building, and the willingness to pursue advancement opportunities even when they involved increased responsibility or temporary discomfort. The fact that Emma appeared content with administrative responsibilities that offered minimal growth potential suggested to Bob that she had not internalized the lessons about professional development and career advancement that he had attempted to instill through years of family discussions about workplace success and individual achievement. Her apparent satisfaction with limited responsibility and routine tasks represented a fundamental misunderstanding of how modern business environments rewarded initiative, leadership, and strategic thinking. Linda's concerns about Emma's career situation were more focused on long-term financial security and the practical implications of remaining in entry-level positions that provided minimal benefits, limited retirement contributions, and no protection against economic downturns or industry changes that could eliminate administrative positions through automation or organizational restructuring. Her experience within public education had demonstrated the importance of career advancement, professional development, and the kind of specialized expertise that provided employment security throughout economic cycles. The educational investment that Bob and Linda had made in Emma's business administration degree at the University of Texas represented substantial financial sacrifice and family priority setting that should have prepared her for meaningful career advancement within Austin's growing business community. The fact that she appeared to be underutilizing her educational background and failing to leverage her university connections for professional networking suggested either a lack of career planning or insufficient understanding of how educational credentials translated into workplace advancement. Michael and Ashley's perspective on Emma's career situation was influenced by their own professional success and their understanding of how strategic career development required persistent effort, professional networking, and the willingness to pursue opportunities that involved increased responsibility and greater visibility within industry communities. Their combined experience within banking and real estate had demonstrated how professional advancement required moving beyond entry-level positions through performance excellence, relationship building, and the demonstration of leadership capabilities. The contrast between their own career trajectories and Emma's apparent stagnation created concerns about her ability to achieve the kind of financial stability and social recognition that would enable her to contribute appropriately to family, gatherings, and community involvement. Their success had been built through strategic career moves, professional development investments, and the kind of networking that opened doors to advancement opportunities within competitive business environments. Sophia's concerns about Emma's professional situation were more personal and focused on the sisterly relationship that had developed through years of family interaction and mutual support during various life challenges and milestone celebrations. Her experience within healthcare had demonstrated how professional satisfaction required meaningful work that contributed to larger social purposes while providing opportunities for continued learning and skill development that maintained intellectual engagement throughout one's career. The administrative responsibilities that characterized Emma's apparent job duties seemed to offer limited opportunities for the kind of professional growth and intellectual challenge that Sophia had experienced through her nursing career and specialized training programs. The routine nature of clerical work appeared to waste Emma's intellectual capabilities and educational background while providing minimal satisfaction or sense of professional accomplishment. These family perspectives on Emma's career situation had been developing over the 5 years since she had graduated from the University of Texas and entered what appeared to be a period of professional underachievement that contrasted sharply with her academic success and the family expectations that had been established through years of educational investment and career planning discussions. The weekly family dinners had become increasingly focused on professional development conversations that reflected genuine concern about Emma's future, while demonstrating the growing gap between family expectations and her apparent career reality. The questions about advancement opportunities, salary improvements, and professional development reflected both caring interest and frustrated disappointment about her failure to achieve the kind of success that her education and family background should have enabled. Emma's responses to these inquiries had been carefully crafted to satisfy immediate curiosity, while avoiding detailed discussions that might reveal inconsistencies in her cover story or invite unwanted advice about career development strategies. Her explanations about workplace responsibilities, advancement opportunities, and professional satisfaction had been designed to end conversations rather than encourage further exploration of her actual professional situation and business achievements. The psychological burden of maintaining these careful responses while listening to family concerns about her apparent lack of professional development had created an internal tension that grew more difficult to manage as her actual business success expanded and generated opportunities for industry recognition that had to be declined or managed carefully to avoid compromising her privacy protection and family relationship preservation strategies. The success of TechFlow Solutions had been built on Emma's ability to identify market opportunities and develop innovative software solutions that addressed real business problems with elegant, user-friendly technology that didn't require extensive technical expertise to implement or maintain. The company's growth from dormitory room startup to multi-million-dollar enterprise had been achieved through strategic business development, careful financial management, and the kind of innovative thinking that created competitive advantages within Austin's rapidly expanding technology sector. The proprietary customer relationship management software that had become TechFlow's flagship product represented years of development work, market research, and iterative improvement based on client feedback and evolving business requirements. The system's success reflected Emma's understanding of how small and medium-sized businesses needed technology solutions that enhanced their operations without requiring substantial investments in technical infrastructure or specialized personnel. The client base that had developed around this core product included restaurants, retail operations, professional services firms, and government agencies that relied on TechFlow's expertise for custom software development, system integration, and ongoing technical support that enabled them to compete effectively within their respective markets while maintaining operational efficiency and customer satisfaction. The financial performance that had resulted from this client development and product success had exceeded Emma's most optimistic projections from the early days when she had been writing code in her college apartment and dreaming about building a company that could make a meaningful difference in how businesses operated and served their customers. The $12 million in annual revenue reflected not just financial success, but also the value that TechFlow created for clients who depended on reliable technology solutions for their daily operations. The 45 employees who now worked for TechFlow represented Emma's commitment to building a company culture that valued innovation, professional development, and the kind of collaborative problem-solving that enabled continued growth and client satisfaction within competitive technology markets. The hiring and management of this team had required developing leadership skills, organizational capabilities, and strategic thinking that extended far beyond the technical expertise that had enabled the initial product development. The downtown Austin office space that housed TechFlow's operations reflected both the company's success and Emma's vision for creating a work environment that attracted top talent while supporting the kind of collaborative innovation that generated breakthrough. Solutions for complex business challenges. The facility included development labs, client meeting spaces, and recreational areas that supported both productivity and employee satisfaction within Austin's competitive technology employment market. The industry recognition that TechFlow had received through various business awards and professional association acknowledgments validated Emma's approach to technology development and client service, while creating opportunities for expanded market presence and strategic partnership development. However, these achievements had to be managed carefully to maintain the privacy protection that prevented family discovery of her actual professional status and business ownership. The personal wealth that had accumulated through TechFlow's success represented both financial security and the freedom to make strategic business decisions based on long-term value creation rather than short-term cash flow requirements. The $8.2 million net worth reflected not just business success, but also careful investment management and the kind of financial planning that enabled continued growth and opportunity development. The lifestyle that this wealth could support included the downtown condominium with its panoramic lake views, luxury furnishings, and technology infrastructure necessary for managing international business operations and client relationships across multiple time zones. However, this lifestyle had to remain hidden from family members who would struggle to understand how administrative assistant compensation could support such obvious financial success. The complexity of maintaining separate personal and professional identities had grown more challenging as TechFlow's success created opportunities for public speaking, industry leadership, and professional networking that could compromise the careful privacy management that protected both business operations and family relationships from unwanted attention or complicated dynamics that might result from revealing the truth about Emma's achievements. The daily routine of deception had become so deeply ingrained in Emma's life that she sometimes forgot which version of herself she was supposed to be presenting at any given moment. Each morning began with a careful calculation of which identity would be required throughout the day, which conversations needed to be navigated with strategic vagueness, and which opportunities for authentic self-expression would need to be suppressed in favor of maintaining the elaborate fiction that protected both her business interests and her family relationships. Monday mornings were particularly challenging because they required transitioning from weekend family interactions, where she was Emma, the struggling secretary, back to the reality of leading TechFlow Solutions through another week of complex business operations, strategic decision-making, and client relationship management that demanded the full engagement of her entrepreneurial capabilities and technical expertise. The psychological whiplash of these identity shifts had created a persistent sense of disconnection that affected her ability to maintain authentic relationships in either sphere of her carefully compartmentalized existence. The modest North Austin apartment that served as her official address for family correspondence and emergency contacts had been selected specifically for its unremarkable appearance and location within a complex that suggested someone living paycheck to paycheck, rather than building significant wealth through business ownership. The unit was furnished with items from discount retailers and thrift stores, creating an environment that supported the narrative of financial struggle, while providing a staging area for the twice-monthly visits that maintained the illusion of her actual living situation. These apartment visits required careful preparation and timing to ensure that none of her family members would unexpectedly discover the truth about her real residence or lifestyle. The refrigerator was stocked with generic brands and budget-conscious food choices that reflected someone trying to stretch a limited income, while the closet contained the modest wardrobe that Emma wore to family gatherings and the occasional public appearances where she might be recognized by someone with connections to her relatives. The 10-year-old Honda Civic that sat in the apartment complex parking lot served a similar deceptive purpose, providing visible evidence of someone who couldn't afford reliable transportation or the kind of vehicle that suggested financial success or professional advancement. The car required regular maintenance to keep it running, despite Emma's ability to purchase any vehicle she desired, but maintaining this prop was essential to preserving the overall credibility of her cover story. Meanwhile, her actual residence, in the downtown Austin high-rise represented everything that her supposed administrative assistant salary could never support. The corner unit on the 32nd floor offered panoramic views of Lady Bird Lake and the Austin skyline, while floor-to-ceiling windows filled the space with natural light that highlighted the custom Italian furniture and contemporary art, collection that reflected both personal taste and significant financial resources. The home office within this condominium was equipped with multiple monitors, encrypted communication systems, and video conferencing technology that enabled Emma to manage TechFlow's operations from anywhere in the world while maintaining the security protocols that protected client confidentiality and proprietary business information. The space had been designed to accommodate both individual work and small team meetings, with presentation capabilities that supported client consultations and strategic planning sessions. The master bedroom featured a walk-in closet that housed the professional wardrobe Emma wore to industry conferences, client meetings, and the occasional business social events that she attended under carefully managed circumstances where family discovery was unlikely. These clothes reflected the personal style of someone who had achieved significant success while maintaining the understated elegance that characterized successful female entrepreneurs in Austin's technology community. The kitchen had been designed for someone who entertained clients and business associates, with professional-grade appliances and an open layout that flowed into living areas, suitable for hosting strategic planning sessions or celebratory dinners following major business milestones. However, these entertaining capabilities remained largely unused because Emma's social isolation prevented the kind of authentic relationship building that might have made such gatherings meaningful or professionally valuable. The building's amenities included a rooftop pool area, where Emma occasionally spent evening hours reflecting on the complexity of her situation while watching the sunset over Lake Austin and contemplating the psychological costs of maintaining such an elaborate deception. These moments of solitude provided opportunities for honest self-assessment that were impossible during the constant performance required by her dual identity management. The concierge services available within the building handled various practical aspects of Emma's lifestyle management, including package delivery, maintenance coordination, and the kind of personal assistance that enabled her to maintain her business focus while ensuring that her actual living situation remained completely separate from her family's understanding of her capabilities and resources. These services were particularly valuable for managing the logistics of her double life while maintaining professional efficiency. The financial management required to support both her actual lifestyle and the modest apartment that served as her official residence had become increasingly complex as TechFlow's success generated substantial income that needed to be carefully allocated between business reinvestment, personal wealth building, and the maintenance of her cover story. The accounting firm that handled these arrangements had been selected specifically for their discretion and expertise in managing complex financial situations for high-net-worth clients who required absolute privacy protection. The luxury vehicle that Emma actually drove was kept in the secure parking garage beneath her downtown condominium, where it remained invisible to anyone who might recognize her or connect her to her family members. The BMW sedan represented both personal enjoyment and professional necessity, providing reliable transportation for client meetings and business travel, while reflecting the success that she had achieved through years of strategic business development and innovative technology creation. However, this vehicle could never be seen by family members or anyone within their social circle, requiring careful route planning and timing coordination whenever Emma needed to travel between her two different worlds. The logistics of maintaining separate transportation options had become second nature, but they represented an additional layer of complexity that required constant attention and strategic thinking. The professional relationships that Emma had, developed within Austin's technology community, were carefully managed to prevent any intersection with her family's social or professional networks. Industry conferences, networking events, and business association meetings had to be evaluated not just for their potential business value, but also for the risk that they might expose her true identity to someone who could inadvertently compromise her privacy protection. This social isolation had prevented Emma from fully leveraging the networking opportunities that typically accelerated business growth and professional development within technology sectors. While other successful entrepreneurs built their reputations through public speaking, industry leadership, and community involvement, Emma had to decline most of these opportunities to preserve the elaborate deception that protected her family, relationships, and business confidentiality. The awards and recognition that TechFlow had received for innovation, growth, and community contribution had to be accepted through intermediaries or declined entirely when they involved public ceremonies or media coverage that might create visibility within Austin's broader business community. These missed opportunities for industry recognition represented both personal disappointment and potential business limitations that affected the company's ability to attract top talent and strategic partnerships. The isolation extended to personal relationships as well, since dating and social activities required the same careful identity management that characterized every other aspect of Emma's life. Potential romantic partners would need to understand and accept the complexity of her situation, while friends had to be carefully evaluated for their discretion and their likelihood of maintaining appropriate boundaries between different aspects of her compartmentalized existence. The psychological impact of this systematic isolation had grown more pronounced as Emma's business success created achievements that would normally be celebrated and shared with people who cared about her personal and professional development. Major contract wins, product launches, and expansion milestones became solitary experiences that highlighted the emotional costs of maintaining such comprehensive privacy protection. The weekly family dinners had evolved into exercises in patience and emotional regulation, as Emma listened to conversations about professional advancement, financial planning, and career development while possessing knowledge and experience that far exceeded anything being discussed around the Rodriguez family table. The advice offered by family members who genuinely cared about her future was often completely irrelevant to her actual situation, but responding appropriately required, suppressing her real expertise and maintaining the appearance of someone who needed guidance rather than someone who could provide it. Michael's suggestions about networking within Austin's business community were particularly ironic, since Emma already maintained relationships with many of the city's most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders through her role as TechFlow's CEO. His advice about pursuing advanced education to enhance her credentials ignored the fact that Emma's practical business experience had provided education that exceeded anything available through traditional academic programs. Ashley's recommendations about financial planning and investment strategies reflected a fundamental misunderstanding of Emma's actual financial situation and the sophisticated wealth management strategies that she had implemented through her business success. The condescending tone that characterized these conversations suggested assumptions about Emma's financial literacy that were completely disconnected from her actual expertise in business finance and strategic investment planning. Sophia's concerns about job security and career advancement reflected genuine sisterly care, but were based on completely inaccurate information about Emma's professional stability and growth potential. The nursing profession's emphasis on continuing education and professional development had created expectations about career advancement that were already being exceeded through Emma's entrepreneurial success and business leadership. Even Linda's maternal worries about Emma's future marriage prospects and family planning were complicated by assumptions about financial security and professional status that bore no relationship to Emma's actual circumstances. The traditional timeline for life milestone achievement that had characterized previous generations was being unconsciously applied to someone whose unconventional path to success had already provided the foundation for any future family planning decisions. Bob's increasingly direct expressions of disappointment and concern represented the most challenging aspect of these family interactions because they reflected both genuine paternal love and complete misunderstanding of his daughter's actual achievements and capabilities. His business experience had taught him to recognize signs of professional stagnation and lack of ambition, But he was applying these observations to someone whose entrepreneurial success had already exceeded his own lifetime career accomplishments. The conversations had gradually escalated over the months and years, as Emma's apparent lack of career progress became more concerning to family members who measured professional success through conventional metrics of advancement, recognition, and financial improvement. Their suggestions had evolved from gentle encouragement to more direct advice about pursuing additional education, seeking new employment opportunities, or considering career changes that might provide better prospects for advancement and financial security. The irony of receiving career counseling from people whose combined professional experience was less significant than her individual business achievements had created a cognitive dissonance that required enormous emotional self-control to manage effectively. Emma had to resist correcting misconceptions, offering superior expertise, or demonstrating knowledge that would be inconsistent with her supposed administrative assistant role. The weekly preparation for these family dinners had become increasingly elaborate as Emma worked to maintain consistency in her responses, while avoiding topics that might reveal her actual knowledge of business operations, technology development, or strategic planning. The mental energy required for this performance had begun affecting her ability to focus on actual business responsibilities and strategic decision-making that required her full attention and cognitive resources. The questions about her daily work responsibilities required carefully rehearsed responses that described mundane administrative tasks, while avoiding details that might prompt follow-up inquiries or reveal inconsistencies in her cover story. Emma had to remember which version of her job duties she had described in previous conversations, while ensuring that her responses remained boring enough to discourage extended discussion. The inquiries about her supervisor and workplace relationships required similar strategic management, since Emma couldn't describe actual interactions with employees, clients, or business partners who knew her as the company's founder and CEO. Instead, she had to create fictional characters and workplace dynamics that supported her administrative assistant narrative while remaining sufficiently vague to prevent detailed questions about specific individuals or company operations. The discussions about salary and benefits were particularly challenging because Emma had to express appropriate concern about financial limitations while avoiding specific figures that might be verified or compared to actual administrative assistant compensation levels within Austin's employment market. Her responses had to suggest financial struggle without creating opportunities for family members to offer assistance that would complicate her situation. The conversations about career advancement and professional development opportunities required Emma to express interest in potential growth while explaining why such opportunities weren't materializing through her supposed employer. These explanations had to be credible enough to satisfy family curiosity, while maintaining the fiction that she was trapped in a dead-end position despite her education and capabilities. The psychological complexity of these interactions had created a persistent state of internal tension that affected Emma's ability to maintain authentic relationships with family members whose opinions and approval had remained important throughout her adult life. The love and concern expressed by parents and siblings was genuine, but it was directed toward a version of Emma that didn't actually exist, creating a fundamental disconnect that prevented real intimacy and mutual understanding. The success that Emma had achieved through building TechFlow solutions represented the fulfillment of entrepreneurial dreams and professional goals that had been developing since her college years when she first recognized the potential for creating technology, solutions that could transform how businesses operated and served their customers. The company's growth and market impact provided the kind of meaningful work and financial rewards that exceeded her most optimistic expectations about what could be accomplished through innovation and strategic business development. However, this success had to remain completely invisible to the people whose recognition and pride would have meant the most to her personal satisfaction and emotional well-being. The achievements that should have been celebrated and shared had become sources of isolation and internal conflict that complicated every family interaction and prevented the authentic relationship development that would have strengthened family bonds and mutual support. The approaching moment when this elaborate deception would necessarily come to an end had been building pressure within Emma's psychological and emotional systems that was becoming increasingly difficult to manage through the compartmentalization. Strategies that had enabled her to maintain dual identities for 5 years. The business success that had motivated the initial privacy protection had evolved into personal achievement that demanded recognition and authentic relationship building. That was impossible while maintaining the administrative assistant fiction. The family dinner conversation that would ultimately trigger Emma's decision to reveal the truth was developing according to the familiar patterns that had characterized years of professional discussion and career counseling. But the accumulated weight of systematic underestimation and misplaced concern was approaching a breaking point that would necessarily transform every relationship around the Rodriguez family table. The evening air in Cedar Park carried the familiar sense of barbecue smoke and freshly cut grass as Emma sat at her designated spot near the kitchen door, watching her father's expression grow increasingly serious as he prepared to deliver what would become the defining moment of their relationship. The crystal chandelier above the dining table cast intricate shadows across the mahogany surface, creating patterns that seemed to shift and dance as the conversation took on the weight of accumulated disappointment and paternal concern that had been building for months. Bob Rodriguez set down his coffee cup with deliberate precision, the ceramic making a soft clink against the saucer that seemed unnaturally loud in the sudden quiet that had settled over the family gathering. His weathered hands, marked by decades of handshakes and contract signings that had built his insurance career, folded together as he leaned forward with the posture of someone preparing to address a serious family matter that required direct communication and honest assessment. The silence stretched across the dining room like a physical presence, heavy with anticipation and the kind of tension that develops when important conversations can no longer be postponed or softened through diplomatic language and gentle suggestions. Linda Rodriguez's usually warm expression had become guarded and concerned, while Michael and Ashley exchanged glances that suggested they recognized the gravity of what was about to unfold around their family table. Sophia shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her nursing instincts recognizing the signs of emotional distress that were beginning to manifest in the subtle changes of posture and breathing patterns that characterized moments of high psychological tension. The youngest Rodriguez sibling had always served as the family peacekeeper, but even her diplomatic skills would be insufficient to manage the confrontation that was building toward its inevitable culmination. Bob's voice, when it finally broke the silence, carried the authority and disappointment that had accumulated through years of watching his youngest daughter fail to achieve the kind of professional success that he believed was both possible and necessary for her long-term security and family contribution. His words were measured and deliberate, chosen for maximum impact and clarity about the seriousness of his concerns regarding Emma's apparent lack of career ambition and professional development. "Emma, I need to be completely honest with you about something that's been troubling your mother and me for quite some time now," Bob began, his tone carrying the weight of paternal responsibility and genuine concern that made his criticism more painful than anger could have achieved. "We've been watching your career situation for 5 years now, and we're deeply concerned about the choices you're making and the direction your professional life has taken." The words hung in the air like an indictment, each syllable carrying decades of immigrant work ethic and achievement expectations that had driven Bob Rodriguez from entry-level insurance sales to regional management through persistent effort and strategic relationship building. His understanding of professional success was grounded in measurable advancement, financial improvement, and the kind of career development that provided security and social recognition within established community frameworks. "Your brother Michael has built a successful career in banking that provides him with financial security, professional respect, and opportunities for continued advancement that will support his family and contribute to his community for decades to come," Bob continued, gesturing toward his son with the pride that reflected years of career monitoring and achievement celebration. "Ashley has developed a thriving real estate business that serves Austin's growing luxury market, while building wealth and establishing professional relationships that enhance both her individual success and our family's social standing." The comparison was neither subtle nor unexpected, following patterns that had been established through years of family dinners where professional accomplishments were measured against sibling achievements and generational expectations about upward mobility and career progression. Emma had anticipated this moment for months, recognizing the signs of mounting paternal frustration and the inevitable conversation that would demand accountability for her apparent professional stagnation. Sophia has chosen a career in healthcare that combines personal fulfillment with social contribution and financial stability, while continuously developing her skills through specialized training and professional advancement that demonstrates the kind of commitment to excellence that we've always emphasized in this family, Bob said, his voice gaining intensity as he built toward the central point of his assessment. The systematic review of her siblings' achievements served as both context and contrast for the critique that was developing, creating a framework that highlighted Emma's apparent failure to achieve comparable success or demonstrate similar professional initiative. The methodology was characteristic of Bob's business approach to problem identification and solution development, but the personal nature of the assessment added emotional weight that made the conversation particularly challenging for everyone involved. Linda Rodriguez watched her husband's presentation with the careful attention of someone who had participated in planning this intervention, but remained concerned about its potential emotional impact on family relationships and individual self-esteem. Her experience as an elementary school principal had taught her about the delicate balance between constructive feedback and psychological damage, but she also understood the importance of addressing performance issues before they became irreversibly problematic. But you, Emma, seem content to remain in the same entry-level administrative position that you accepted immediately after college graduation, with no apparent interest in pursuing advancement opportunities, developing professional skills, or building the kind of career that could provide long-term financial security and personal satisfaction, Bob stated, his disappointment becoming more evident as he addressed the core of his concerns. The characterization of Emma's professional situation as entry-level administrative work reflected the family's complete misunderstanding of her actual responsibilities and achievements, but it also demonstrated the effectiveness of her cover story in creating exactly the impression she had intended to maintain. The irony was so profound that Emma felt a moment of dark humor despite the emotional difficulty of listening to her father's assessment of her apparent limitations. You're 39 years old, Emma, and you're still working as a secretary, answering phones and filing papers for other people who are actually building successful businesses and making important decisions that affect their communities and industries, Bob continued, his voice carrying the frustration that had been building through years of watching his daughter's apparent lack of professional growth or personal ambition. The word secretary carried particular weight within Bob's worldview, representing a category of employment that was respectable but fundamentally limited in scope, advancement potential, and social recognition. His understanding of administrative work was shaped by generational perspectives about gender roles and career hierarchies that viewed clerical positions as temporary stepping stones rather than permanent career destinations for educated professionals. When I was your age, I had already been promoted to assistant regional manager and was building the client relationships and professional reputation that would support our family's financial security and social standing for decades, Bob said, drawing explicit comparisons between his own career trajectory and Emma's apparent stagnation that highlighted the generational disconnect between their professional experiences. The comparison reflected Bob's belief that career advancement followed predictable patterns of promotion and responsibility expansion within established corporate hierarchies, but it also revealed his inability to recognize or understand alternative paths to professional success that operated outside traditional employment structures. His experience within the insurance industry had been built through relationship development and institutional advancement that provided clear metrics for measuring progress and achievement. Michael shifted uncomfortably in his chair as his father's assessment became increasingly direct and personal. Recognizing both the validity of the concerns being expressed and the potential for emotional damage that could result from such pointed criticism of Emma's life choices and professional capabilities. The silence stretched across the dining room like a physical presence, heavy with anticipation and the kind of tension that develops when important conversations can no longer be postponed or softened through diplomatic language and gentle suggestions. Linda Rodriguez's usually warm expression had become guarded and concerned, while Michael and Ashley exchanged glances that suggested they recognized the gravity of what was about to unfold around their family table. Sophia shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her nursing instincts recognizing the signs of emotional distress that were beginning to manifest in the subtle changes of posture and breathing patterns that characterized moments of high psychological tension. The youngest Rodriguez sibling had always served as the family peacekeeper, but even her diplomatic skills would be insufficient to manage the confrontation that was building toward its inevitable culmination. Bob's voice, when it finally broke the silence, carried the authority and disappointment that had accumulated through years of watching his youngest daughter fail to achieve the kind of professional success that he believed was both possible and necessary for her long-term security and family contribution. His words were measured and deliberate, chosen for maximum impact and clarity about the seriousness of his concerns regarding Emma's apparent lack of career ambition and professional development. "Emma, I need to be completely honest with you about something that's been troubling your mother and me for quite some time now," Bob began, his tone carrying the weight of paternal responsibility and genuine concern that made his criticism more painful than anger could have achieved. "We've been watching your career situation for 5 years now, and we're deeply concerned about the choices you're making and the direction your professional life has taken." The words hung in the air like an indictment, each syllable carrying decades of immigrant work ethic and achievement expectations that had driven Bob Rodriguez from entry-level insurance sales to regional management through persistent effort and strategic relationship building. His understanding of professional success was grounded in measurable advancement, financial improvement, and the kind of career development that provided security and social recognition within established community frameworks. "Your brother Michael has built a successful career in banking that provides him with financial security, professional respect, and opportunities for continued advancement that will support his family and contribute to his community for decades to come," Bob continued, gesturing toward his son with the pride that reflected years of career monitoring and achievement celebration. "Ashley has developed a thriving real estate business that serves Austin's growing luxury market, while building wealth and establishing professional relationships that enhance both her individual success and our family's social standing." The comparison was neither subtle nor unexpected, following patterns that had been established through years of family dinners where professional accomplishments were measured against sibling achievements and generational expectations about upward mobility and career progression. Emma had anticipated this moment for months, recognizing the signs of mounting paternal frustration and the inevitable conversation that would demand accountability for her apparent professional stagnation. Sophia has chosen a career in healthcare that combines personal fulfillment with social contribution and financial stability, while continuously developing her skills through specialized training and professional advancement that demonstrates the kind of commitment to excellence that we've always emphasized in this family, Bob said, his voice gaining intensity as he built toward the central point of his assessment. The systematic review of her siblings' achievements served as both context and contrast for the critique that was developing, creating a framework that highlighted Emma's apparent failure to achieve comparable success or demonstrate similar professional initiative. The methodology was characteristic of Bob's business approach to problem identification and solution development, but the personal nature of the assessment added emotional weight that made the conversation particularly challenging for everyone involved. Linda Rodriguez watched her husband's presentation with the careful attention of someone who had participated in planning this intervention, but remained concerned about its potential emotional impact on family relationships and individual self-esteem. Her experience as an elementary school principal had taught her about the delicate balance between constructive feedback and psychological damage, but she also understood the importance of addressing performance issues before they became irreversibly problematic. But you, Emma, seem content to remain in the same entry-level administrative position that you accepted immediately after college graduation, with no apparent interest in pursuing advancement opportunities, developing professional skills, or building the kind of career that could provide long-term financial security and personal satisfaction, Bob stated, his disappointment becoming more evident as he addressed the core of his concerns. The characterization of Emma's professional situation as entry-level administrative work reflected the family's complete misunderstanding of her actual responsibilities and achievements, but it also demonstrated the effectiveness of her cover story in creating exactly the impression she had intended to maintain. The irony was so profound that Emma felt a moment of dark humor despite the emotional difficulty of listening to her father's assessment of her apparent limitations. "You're 39 years old, Emma, and you're still working as a secretary, answering phones and filing papers for other people who are actually building successful businesses and making important decisions that affect their communities and industries," Bob continued, his voice carrying the frustration that had been building through years of watching his daughter's apparent lack of professional growth or personal ambition. The word secretary carried particular weight within Bob's worldview, representing a category of employment that was respectable but fundamentally limited in scope, advancement potential, and social recognition. His understanding of administrative work was shaped by generational perspectives about gender roles and career hierarchies that viewed clerical positions as temporary stepping stones rather than permanent career destinations for educated professionals. When I was your age, I had already been promoted to assistant regional manager and was building the client relationships and professional reputation that would support our family's financial security and social standing for decades, Bob said, drawing explicit comparisons between his own career trajectory and Emma's apparent stagnation that highlighted the generational disconnect between their professional experiences. The comparison reflected Bob's belief that career advancement followed predictable patterns of promotion and responsibility expansion within established corporate hierarchies, but it also revealed his inability to recognize or understand alternative paths to professional success that operated outside traditional employment structures. His experience within the insurance industry had been built through relationship development and institutional advancement that provided clear metrics for measuring progress and achievement. Michael shifted uncomfortably in his chair as his father's assessment became increasingly direct and personal, recognizing both the validity of the concerns being expressed and the potential for emotional damage that could result from such pointed criticism of Emma's life choices and professional capabilities. His own career success had been achieved through the conventional path that Bob was advocating, but he also understood that different personality types and market opportunities might require alternative approaches to professional development. Ashley maintained her politely attentive expression, while internally calculating the social implications of having a family member whose career limitations might affect the Rodriguez family's reputation within Cedar Park's competitive social environment. Her real estate career had taught her about the importance of perception management and social positioning, creating concerns about how Emma's apparent underachievement might influence potential client relationships and community standing. Sophia's medical training had developed her ability to recognize signs of emotional distress and psychological pressure, enabling her to observe the subtle changes in Emma's posture and facial expression that suggested the conversation was having significant impact despite her outwardly calm demeanor. The nursing profession had taught Sophia about the importance of individual dignity and personal autonomy, creating internal conflict about the family intervention approach that was being employed. I understand that some people are naturally less ambitious than others, and perhaps you're satisfied with a simpler lifestyle that doesn't require the professional challenges and financial responsibilities that come with career advancement, Bob continued, apparently unaware that his assessment was about to be revealed as spectacularly incorrect in ways that would fundamentally transform every family member's understanding of professional achievement and personal capability. The patronizing tone that characterized this portion of Bob's assessment reflected assumptions about Emma's personality and goals that were based on incomplete information and conventional interpretations of career satisfaction that failed to recognize the complexity of her actual situation. His attempt to provide charitable explanation for her apparent limitations demonstrated both paternal love and complete misunderstanding of his daughter's true capabilities and achievements. "But I cannot stand by and watch you waste your potential and settle for a life that falls so far short of what you could achieve if you applied yourself seriously to career development and professional advancement," Bob stated, his voice carrying the emotional weight of accumulated disappointment and frustrated parental ambition that had been building for years. The phrase, "waste your potential," struck Emma with particular force because it represented such a fundamental inversion of reality, highlighting the tragic irony that her father's disappointment was based on complete ignorance of achievements that had already exceeded his most optimistic expectations for any of his children. The emotional impact was complicated by her recognition that his concerns were motivated by genuine love and desire for her success, even though they were based on systematically inaccurate information. "You have a business administration degree from the University of Texas, Emma. You have intelligence, education, and family support that should have enabled you to build a meaningful career that contributes something valuable to your community, while providing financial security and personal satisfaction," Bob continued, his frustration becoming more evident as he built toward the climactic statement that would ultimately trigger Emma's decision to reveal the truth. The reference to her educational background and family support highlighted the investment that Bob and Linda had made in Emma's preparation for professional success, creating additional emotional weight around the perceived failure to convert educational opportunity into career advancement. The disappointment was compounded by recognition that resources and support had been provided, but apparently not utilized effectively. Linda Rodriguez finally spoke, her voice carrying the gentle but firm tone that had characterized her approach to educational leadership and family guidance throughout her career as a school principal. "Emma, darling, we're not trying to hurt your feelings or make you feel bad about your choices, but we're worried about your future and we want to help you find a path toward greater professional fulfillment and financial security." The maternal concern was genuine and reflected years of observation and worry about Emma's apparent lack of career development and professional growth, but it was also based on completely inaccurate information about her actual circumstances and achievements. Linda's attempt to soften the intervention reflected her understanding of psychology and personal development, but her good intentions could not overcome the fundamental misconceptions that shaped the family's assessment. "We've discussed this privately, and we think it might be beneficial for you to consider working with a career counselor who could help you identify your strengths and develop a strategic plan for professional advancement that aligns with your interests and capabilities," Linda continued, offering practical suggestions that were intended to provide constructive alternatives to continued stagnation. The suggestion of career counseling represented the family's attempt to provide helpful support for someone they perceived as struggling with professional development, but the recommendation highlighted their complete misunderstanding of Emma's actual expertise in strategic planning, business development, and career management that had already enabled extraordinary success through entrepreneurial innovation and market leadership. Michael finally contributed to the conversation, his banking experience providing perspective on career development and professional advancement that he hoped might be helpful to his younger sister. "Emma, I know this is difficult to hear, but we're all concerned about your long-term financial security and professional satisfaction. The banking industry has taught me about the importance of strategic career planning and the compound effects of early professional decisions on lifetime earning potential." His attempt to provide guidance reflected genuine brotherly concern combined with professional expertise in financial planning and career development. But his advice was directed toward someone whose financial achievements had already exceeded his own despite his successful banking career and strategic advancement within established corporate hierarchies. Ashley added her perspective from the real estate industry, drawing on experience with clients who had achieved various levels of financial success through different career paths and professional strategies. Emma, I work with successful professionals every day, and I can tell you that the ones who achieve real financial independence and lifestyle flexibility are the ones who take calculated risks and pursue advancement opportunities, even when they involve temporary discomfort or increased responsibility. The real estate perspective on professional success reflected Ashley's understanding of wealth building and lifestyle achievement. But her observations were being applied to someone who had already achieved significant financial independence through business ownership and entrepreneurial success that operated outside the conventional career frameworks that characterized her own professional experience. Sophia approached the conversation from her healthcare background, emphasizing the importance of meaningful work and personal satisfaction alongside financial considerations and career advancement. Emma, I love my nursing career because it provides both personal fulfillment and professional growth opportunities that keep me engaged and challenged while contributing to something larger than myself. I think you might benefit from exploring career options that could provide similar satisfaction and growth potential. The nursing perspective on career satisfaction reflected Sophia's understanding of professional fulfillment and the importance of meaningful work, but her suggestions were directed towards someone who was already experiencing exactly the kind of professional engagement and social contribution that she was recommending through TechFlow Solutions' innovative technology development and business client service. The cumulative effect of these well-intentioned interventions was creating an emotional pressure that Emma found increasingly difficult to manage through the compartmentalization strategies that had enabled her to maintain dual identities for 5 years. The gap between her family's perception and her actual reality had grown so wide that continued deception was becoming psychologically unsustainable and emotionally destructive to relationships that remained important despite their foundation on systematic misunderstanding. Bob's final assessment would prove to be the statement that pushed Emma beyond her ability to maintain the elaborate fiction that had protected both business confidentiality and family harmony while preventing authentic relationship development and mutual understanding. His words would demonstrate the complete inversion of reality that had characterized years of family interactions and career discussions based on fundamentally incorrect assumptions about professional capability and personal achievement. The truth is, Emma, that at 39 years old, you're still just a secretary who answers phones and files papers for other people's businesses, Bob stated with the finality that characterized his most serious business assessments and family decisions. You've settled for mediocrity and limited expectations when you could have built something meaningful that would make your family proud and provide security for your future. The phrase, just a secretary, contained within it decades of assumptions about professional hierarchy, gender roles, and career value that reflected Bob's generational perspective on work and achievement. But it also represented such a spectacular misunderstanding of Emma's actual professional status that the irony was almost overwhelming in its completeness and dramatic potential. I'm disappointed, Emma, because I know you're capable of more than this. But you seem to have given up on yourself and accepted a life that falls far short of what we hoped for you when we invested in your education and supported your development. Bob continued, apparently unaware that he was about to discover just how wrong his assessment could be. The accumulation of disappointment, misplaced concern, and systematic underestimation had reached a point where Emma's psychological capacity for maintaining the deception was finally overwhelmed by the emotional cost of listening to her achievements being characterized as failures and her professional capabilities being dismissed as inadequate for meaningful career development. The moment had arrived when the truth could no longer be contained within the elaborate privacy protection that had shaped 5 years of family interactions and career discussions. The weight of hidden achievement and systematic misunderstanding had created pressure that could only be released through complete honesty about professional success and business ownership that would necessarily transform every relationship around the Rodriguez family dining table. Emma felt the familiar internal shift that occurred when strategic decision-making replaced emotional reaction, drawing on the executive capabilities and leadership experience that had enabled her to build TechFlow Solutions into one of Austin's most successful technology companies. The moment required the same kind of calculated risk assessment and strategic communication that characterized her most important business negotiations and client relationship management. The silence that followed Bob's final assessment stretched across the dining room with the weight of accumulated years and misplaced assumptions, creating space for the revelation that would demonstrate just how spectacularly wrong even the most well-intentioned family concerns could be when they were based on incomplete information and conventional measures of professional achievement that failed to recognize innovative approaches to business success and entrepreneurial excellence. "Dad," Emma said quietly, her voice carrying a new quality of authority and confidence that had been carefully suppressed during years of family gatherings and career discussions. "I need to tell you something that's going to change everything. You think you know about my professional life and capabilities." The transformation in Emma's demeanor was immediately noticeable to family members who had grown accustomed to her defensive responses and careful deflections during conversations about career development and professional advancement. The shift from reactive participant to proactive communicator suggested that something significant was about to be revealed that would require serious attention and careful consideration. "The company where you think I work as a secretary doesn't actually exist," Emma continued, her business training enabling her to deliver complex information with clarity and strategic pacing that would maximize comprehension while managing the emotional impact of systematic misconception correction. "Henderson and Associates Marketing is a fictional company that I created to provide cover for my actual professional activities and business ownership." The initial confusion that registered across family faces reflected the beginning of cognitive processing that would be required to reconcile years of established understanding with information that contradicted every assumption about Emma's capabilities and achievements. The revelation was beginning to unfold with the careful precision that characterized Emma's approach to major business presentations and strategic client communications. "For the past 5 years, while you've been concerned about my career development and professional advancement, I've actually been building and operating TechFlow Solutions, a software development company that I founded during my senior year at UT and have grown into one of Austin's most successful technology firms," Emma explained, providing the foundational information that would enable family members to begin understanding the scope of their misconceptions. The words were beginning to sink in with the gradual recognition that comes when fundamental assumptions are challenged by evidence that demands complete reassessment of previously established understanding. Each family member was processing the information according to their own professional framework and personal relationship with Emma, creating a complex dynamic of surprise, confusion, and growing recognition of the magnitude of the revelation. TechFlow Solutions generates $12 million in annual revenue through custom software development and digital solutions for over 200 clients throughout Texas and the Southwest, Emma continued, providing specific details that would demonstrate both the scope of her business success and the sophisticated operations that had been concealed through years of strategic privacy management. The financial figures commanded immediate attention from family members whose professional experience enabled them to recognize the extraordinary nature of the business achievement being described, while simultaneously grappling with the complete inversion of everything they had believed about Emma's professional capabilities and financial circumstances. Michael's banking background provided him with immediate appreciation for the significance of $12 million in annual revenue, recognizing that such financial performance represented substantial business success that exceeded his own professional achievements despite years of career advancement within Austin's established banking community. His expression reflected the beginning recognition that his career counseling had been directed toward someone whose business expertise already surpassed his own. Ashley's real estate experience enabled her to calculate the personal wealth implications of owning a business with such revenue performance, Understanding that successful technology company ownership could generate the kind of financial resources that would support any lifestyle choice or investment strategy. Her assumptions about Emma's financial limitations were dissolving as she processed information that suggested extraordinary personal wealth and business achievement. Sophia's analytical capabilities were focused on the psychological implications of maintaining such an elaborate deception for 5 years while enduring systematic family concern and career counseling that was completely irrelevant to her actual professional situation. The nursing profession had taught her to recognize signs of stress and emotional burden, enabling her to appreciate the psychological strength that would have been required to maintain such comprehensive privacy management. Linda Rodriguez was experiencing the complex emotions that accompany the discovery that maternal concerns had been based on completely inaccurate information about her daughter's circumstances and capabilities. Her educational background provided frameworks for understanding both individual achievement and the social dynamics that might motivate someone to conceal extraordinary success from family members who cared about their welfare and development. Bob Rodriguez was beginning to process information that challenged not only his assessment of Emma's professional situation, but also his understanding of business success, entrepreneurial achievement, and the various paths that could lead to financial security and social contribution. His insurance industry experience had provided exposure to successful business owners, but he had never imagined that his own daughter had achieved such extraordinary entrepreneurial success while appearing to struggle with basic career development. The revelation was continuing to unfold with the strategic pacing that Emma had learned through years of complex client presentations and business negotiations that required careful information management and stakeholder education. The truth about TechFlow Solutions was beginning to transform family understanding, but the complete scope of Emma's achievements and the reasons for her elaborate deception would require additional explanation and evidence that could substantiate claims that contradicted 5 years of established family narrative. The dining room atmosphere had shifted from intervention to education as Emma prepared to provide the comprehensive explanation that would address both her business achievements and the strategic considerations that had motivated such elaborate privacy protection throughout the development of her entrepreneurial success and professional recognition within Austin's competitive technology sector. The silence that followed Emma's initial revelation stretched across the Rodriguez dining room like a physical force, heavy with the weight of shattered assumptions and the beginning recognition that everything the family had believed about their youngest member was about to be completely overturned. The crystal chandelier continued its gentle swaying motion above the mahogany table, but the atmosphere beneath it had transformed from familiar family gathering into something resembling a boardroom presentation where life-changing information was being systematically revealed and processed. Emma reached into her purse and withdrew a leather portfolio that she had brought to every family dinner for the past 6 months, knowing that eventually the moment would arrive when maintaining the deception would become impossible and complete. Transparency would be the only path forward. The portfolio contained documentation that would substantiate every claim she was about to make, while providing concrete evidence of business achievements that had been carefully hidden from family scrutiny for 5 years. I brought some materials tonight because I've been preparing for this conversation for months, recognizing that our family discussions about my career had reached a point where continuing the deception was becoming harmful to all of us, Emma said, her voice carrying the measured professionalism that characterized her most important client presentations and strategic business communications. The portfolio opened to reveal corporate documents, financial statements, and industry recognition awards that told the story of TechFlow Solutions' growth from startup concept to market leader within Austin's competitive technology sector. Each document represented milestones and achievements that had been celebrated privately while remaining invisible to the family members who cared most about Emma's success and professional development. This is TechFlow Solutions' most recent quarterly financial report, prepared by Hammond & Associates, one of Austin's most respected accounting firms specializing in technology company financial management, Emma explained, passing the document to her father, whose business experience would enable him to interpret the financial data and understand its implications for both company performance and personal wealth generation. Bob Rodriguez accepted the document with hands that trembled slightly as he began processing information that contradicted every assumption he had made about his daughter's professional capabilities and financial circumstances. The letterhead was immediately recognizable as belonging to a prestigious accounting firm whose services were utilized by Austin's most successful businesses, lending immediate credibility to the financial performance data contained within the report. The revenue figures were clearly stated in multiple formats that eliminated any possibility of misinterpretation or exaggeration, demonstrating not only the $12 million in annual revenue that Emma had mentioned, but also the profit, margins, growth trajectories, and financial stability indicators that characterized highly successful business operations. The numbers represented achievements that exceeded Bob's most optimistic expectations for any of his children's career development. The profit margins shown in that report reflect TechFlow's position as a premium service provider within the software development industry, commanding higher fees because our solutions deliver measurable value that translates directly into improved business performance for our clients, Emma continued, providing context that would help family members understand both the business model and the competitive advantages that had enabled such extraordinary financial success. Michael leaned forward to examine the financial documents over his father's shoulder, his banking expertise enabling him to recognize the sophistication of the financial management and the strategic business planning that would be required to achieve such consistent profitability within competitive technology markets. The debt-to-equity ratios, cash flow statements, and asset valuations all indicated a mature business operation that had been built through careful strategic planning and executed with professional excellence. "Emma, these numbers are extraordinary," Michael said quietly, his voice carrying a mixture of amazement and growing recognition of how completely wrong the family had been about her professional situation. "This level of revenue and profit performance represents business success that exceeds anything I've encountered in my banking career, even among our most successful commercial clients." The validation from Michael's banking expertise provided additional credibility to Emma's claims while beginning to shift the family dynamic from intervention to recognition of achievement that deserved celebration rather than concern. His professional assessment carried weight within the family hierarchy. Because of his established expertise in business finance and corporate performance evaluation, Ashley was examining the financial documents through her real estate experience, calculating the personal wealth implications of business ownership and the lifestyle possibilities that would be supported by such substantial income generation. Her understanding of wealth building and asset accumulation enabled her to appreciate not only the business success, but also the personal financial security that had been achieved through entrepreneurial excellence and strategic business development. "Emma, if these figures are accurate, your personal net worth would be substantial enough to support any lifestyle choice or investment strategy you might want to pursue," Ashley observed, her voice reflecting both admiration and bewilderment about the complete disconnect between Emma's apparent financial struggles and her actual wealth accumulation through business ownership. Emma opened another section of her portfolio to reveal client testimonials, industry awards, and media coverage that documented TechFlow Solutions' reputation within Austin's business community and its recognition as an innovative leader in software, development, and digital solutions. The materials provided evidence of professional respect and industry standing that contradicted assumptions about Emma's career limitations and professional capabilities. This is a feature article from Austin Business Journal recognizing TechFlow Solutions as one of the city's fastest-growing technology companies, with particular emphasis on our innovative approach to customer relationship management software and our success in serving small and medium-sized businesses throughout Texas, Emma explained, passing the publication to her mother, whose educational background would enable her to appreciate both the achievement and the media recognition that accompanied business excellence. Linda Rodriguez examined the article with growing amazement, recognizing her daughter's photograph in the business publication and reading quotes that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of market dynamics, technological innovation, and strategic business development. The professional image and expert commentary were completely inconsistent with the administrative assistant narrative that had shaped years of family concern and career counseling. Emma, this article describes you as a visionary entrepreneur whose software innovations have transformed how hundreds of businesses operate and serve their customers, Linda said, her voice carrying the wonder that accompanies the discovery that someone you thought you knew completely had been living an entirely different professional reality. The media coverage provided external validation of Emma's business achievements while demonstrating the public recognition that had been carefully managed to prevent family discovery of her actual professional status and industry leadership. The articles and awards represented opportunities for pride and celebration that had been systematically concealed to maintain privacy protection and avoid complicated family dynamics. Sophia was processing the revelation through her healthcare background, focusing on the psychological implications of maintaining such comprehensive deception while managing the stress of building and operating a major business enterprise. Her nursing experience had taught her to recognize signs of extraordinary strength and resilience, enabling her to appreciate the personal characteristics that would have been required to achieve such success while maintaining family relationships. Based on completely fictional professional circumstances. Emma, I'm beginning to understand the enormous emotional burden you've been carrying, trying to manage a multi-million-dollar business while listening to our concerns about your career development and financial security, Sophia said, her voice carrying both admiration and regret about the family's systematic underestimation of someone who had been demonstrating extraordinary capability and achievement. Emma opened the final section of her portfolio to reveal the property deed for her downtown Austin condominium, vehicle registration for her luxury sedan, and investment account statements that documented the personal wealth that had accumulated. Through TechFlow Solutions' success and her strategic financial planning over 5 years of business operation and profit reinvestment. This is documentation of my actual lifestyle and financial circumstances, which are quite different from the modest apartment and limited resources that I've allowed you to believe characterized my living situation, Emma explained, providing concrete evidence that would eliminate any remaining doubt about the scope of her deception and the reality of her business achievements. The property documentation showed ownership of a luxury condominium in one of Austin's most prestigious downtown high-rises, with a purchase price and monthly association fees that would be impossible to support through administrative assistant income, but entirely appropriate for someone with substantial business wealth and investment resources. The address represented a lifestyle that reflected both professional success and personal financial security. Bob Rodriguez was holding the property deed with an expression that reflected the complete cognitive restructuring required to process information that contradicted 5 years of established understanding about his daughter's capabilities and circumstances. The legal documents were indisputable evidence of wealth accumulation and lifestyle achievement that exceeded his own lifetime accomplishments, despite decades of successful insurance sales and career advancement. Emma, this condominium represents more wealth than your mother and I have accumulated through our entire careers combined, Bob said slowly, his voice carrying both amazement and the beginning recognition of how spectacularly wrong his assessment of her professional limitations had been. The vehicle registration for a luxury BMW sedan provided additional evidence of financial resources that were completely inconsistent with the modest transportation that Emma had displayed during family visits and social gatherings. The disconnect between her apparent financial limitations and actual wealth demonstrated the sophistication of the deception that had been maintained through careful attention to every detail of her dual identity management. Michael was examining the investment account statements that showed portfolio values and dividend income that reflected sophisticated wealth management and the kind of financial planning that characterized successful entrepreneurs who had converted business profits into long-term asset accumulation and passive income generation. The investment strategy demonstrated both business acumen and personal financial literacy that exceeded his own banking expertise. Emma, These investment accounts show financial planning and wealth management that reflects expertise I rarely encounter even among our bank's most sophisticated commercial clients," Michael observed, his professional assessment providing validation of Emma's business capabilities while highlighting the complete inversion of the family's understanding about who possessed superior financial knowledge and strategic planning skills. Ashley was calculating the combined value of Emma's business ownership, real estate holdings, and investment portfolio, recognizing that her younger sister had achieved a level of wealth and financial independence that exceeded anything Ashley had encountered through her luxury real estate career serving Austin's most successful professionals and business owners. "Emma, the combined value of these assets represents financial independence that most people spend their entire careers trying to achieve," Ashley said, her voice reflecting both admiration and bewilderment about the systematic underestimation that had characterized years of family interactions and assumptions about professional capability. Linda Rodriguez was processing the revelation through her educational leadership experience, recognizing both the extraordinary achievement that had been concealed and the strategic thinking that would have been required to build such success. While maintaining family relationships based on completely fictional circumstances, her background in child development and academic achievement provided frameworks for understanding both individual capability and the social dynamics that might motivate such elaborate privacy protection. "Emma, the business success you've achieved represents the kind of entrepreneurial excellence and innovative thinking that we celebrate when we encounter it in our students and community members," Linda said, her voice carrying the pride that had been delayed for years while she worried about a daughter who was actually exceeding every measure of achievement and professional development. Sophia was focused on the emotional implications of the revelation, understanding that the family's discovery of Emma's true circumstances would necessarily transform every relationship and require significant adjustment to family dynamics that had been based on systematic misunderstanding and misplaced concern about professional development and career advancement. "Emma, I'm amazed by your strength in managing such extraordinary business success while maintaining relationships with family members who were consistently underestimating your capabilities and offering advice that was completely irrelevant to your actual professional situation," Sophia said, her nursing experience enabling her to appreciate both the psychological resilience and emotional intelligence that such comprehensive identity management would have required. The dining room atmosphere had transformed completely from the intervention that Bob had planned into a celebration of achievement that had been hidden for years, while family members worried about someone who was actually demonstrating business excellence and financial success that exceeded their combined professional accomplishments. The revelation was creating opportunities for authentic relationship development based on accurate understanding rather than misconceptions and assumptions. Bob Rodriguez set down the documents he had been examining and looked directly at his daughter, with an expression that reflected both profound regret about his earlier assessment and growing pride in achievements that he was only beginning to fully comprehend. His business experience enabled him to recognize the extraordinary nature of what Emma had accomplished, but his emotional processing was complicated by recognition of how wrong his concerns and criticisms had been. "Emma, I owe you an apology. That goes far beyond simple words," Bob said, his voice carrying the weight of accumulated misunderstanding and the recognition that his disappointment had been directed towards someone whose achievements exceeded his most optimistic dreams about any of his children's potential success. The apology represented acknowledgement not only of factual errors about Emma's professional situation, but also recognition of the emotional impact that systematic underestimation had created over years of family gatherings and career discussions. Bob's business background enabled him to appreciate both the entrepreneurial excellence and the strategic thinking that had enabled such extraordinary achievement. "I spent years expressing concern about your career development and professional limitations when you were actually building something extraordinary that demonstrates capabilities and achievements that exceed anything I accomplished throughout my entire business career," Bob continued, his voice carrying both admiration and regret about the missed opportunities for pride and celebration that had been lost through systematic misunderstanding. Linda Rodriguez moved closer to Emma, her maternal instincts recognizing both the achievement that deserved celebration and the emotional strength that had been required to maintain such comprehensive deception while enduring family concern and misplaced career counseling over multiple years of business development and professional success. Emma, darling, I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, but I'm also sorry that you felt unable to share this success with your family who love you and want to celebrate your achievements, Linda said, her voice carrying both joy about the discovery and sadness about the isolation that had prevented authentic relationship development and mutual support during years of extraordinary professional development. Michael stood up from his position at the table and moved toward Emma with the intention of embracing someone whose business achievements had earned his professional respect and admiration, while simultaneously generating regret about years of misplaced career advice and assumptions about professional capability that had been completely disconnected from reality. Emma, I'm incredibly impressed by what you've built with TechFlow Solutions, and I apologize for all the career counseling and financial advice that was completely irrelevant to someone who had already achieved more business success than I may ever accomplish, Michael said, his banking expertise enabling him to provide credible assessment of her achievements while acknowledging the complete inversion of their professional relationship. Ashley approached the conversation with recognition that her assumptions about Emma's financial limitations and lifestyle constraints had been completely wrong, while simultaneously appreciating the strategic thinking and business development that had enabled such extraordinary wealth accumulation through entrepreneurial excellence and market leadership within Austin's competitive technology sector. Emma, I work with successful professionals every day. But what you've accomplished with TechFlow Solutions represents the kind of business success and wealth creation that most entrepreneurs spend decades trying to achieve, Ashley said, her real estate experience providing credible validation of Emma's accomplishments while highlighting the family's systematic underestimation of someone whose achievements exceeded their collective professional success. Sophia's response reflected both her medical training in recognizing extraordinary human capability and her sisterly love for someone whose strength and achievement had been hidden while she endured years of well-intentioned but completely misplaced family concern about professional development and career advancement. Emma, I'm amazed by your resilience and business excellence. But I'm also sad that you felt you couldn't share this incredible success with your family, who would have celebrated your achievements and supported your continued growth, Sophia said, her nursing background enabling her to appreciate both the professional accomplishment and the emotional costs of maintaining such comprehensive privacy protection. The revelation had created opportunities for authentic family relationships based on accurate understanding of Emma's capabilities and achievements, while simultaneously generating recognition of the systematic underestimation that had characterized years of family interactions and career discussions. The discovery would necessarily transform future family gatherings from concern about professional limitations to celebration of entrepreneurial excellence and business leadership. Emma looked around the dining room at family members whose expressions had transformed from disappointment and concern to amazement and pride, recognizing that the revelation had successfully achieved the goals of honesty and authentic relationship development, while eliminating the psychological burden of maintaining dual identities and comprehensive deception about professional status and personal achievements. I hope you understand that the deception was never about lack of trust in your love and support, but rather about protecting both business confidentiality and family relationships from the complications that might have resulted from discussing substantial business success and wealth accumulation during our regular family gatherings, Emma explained, providing context for the strategic thinking that had guided 5 years of careful identity management and privacy protection. The explanation addressed both business requirements and personal considerations that had motivated the elaborate deception while acknowledging the emotional costs that had been imposed on family relationships through systematic misunderstanding. and misplaced concern about professional development and career advancement. Bob Rodriguez stood up from his position at the head of the table and moved toward Emma with arms extended for the embrace that would symbolize both apology for years of misunderstanding and celebration of achievements that exceeded every expectation. About entrepreneurial success and business excellence that he had ever imagined possible for any of his children. Emma, I'm proud of you beyond anything I could have imagined, and I'm grateful that you've finally shared this incredible success with your family who love you and want to support your continued achievement, Bob said, his voice carrying both joy about the discovery and commitment to authentic relationship development based on accurate understanding of her capabilities and accomplishments. The family gathering had transformed from intervention to celebration, creating opportunities for genuine pride and mutual support that had been impossible, while relationships were based on systematic misunderstanding and assumptions about professional capability that were completely disconnected from reality. The revelation had eliminated barriers to authentic family connection while providing foundation for future relationships based on honesty and accurate assessment of individual achievement. 6 months after that transformative Sunday dinner, the Rodriguez family gatherings had evolved into celebrations of continued business success and strategic planning discussions where Emma's expertise was recognized and valued rather than dismissed or overlooked. TechFlow Solutions had continued its growth trajectory, expanding into new markets and developing innovative products that further established the company's leadership within Austin's technology sector. The family's understanding of professional success had been fundamentally transformed through recognition that achievement could take many different forms, and that conventional measures of career advancement might not accurately reflect individual capability or contribution to community, welfare, and economic development. Emma's entrepreneurial success had created new frameworks for evaluating professional accomplishment and personal achievement. Bob Rodriguez had become one of TechFlow Solutions' most enthusiastic advocates within Austin's business community, proudly sharing information about his daughter's company with colleagues and clients who could benefit from innovative software solutions and custom technology development. His insurance industry connections had generated several significant client relationships that contributed to continued business growth and market expansion. Linda Rodriguez had incorporated Emma's business success into her educational leadership by using TechFlow Solutions as an example of entrepreneurial excellence and innovative thinking that demonstrated how educational investment could translate into extraordinary professional achievement and community contribution through technology, development, and business creation. Michael had developed a deeper understanding of technology company finance and strategic business planning through conversations with Emma about market dynamics, competitive positioning, and the financial management strategies that enabled sustainable growth and long-term market leadership within rapidly evolving industry sectors. Ashley had begun referring high-net-worth clients to TechFlow Solutions for custom software development and digital solutions that enhanced their business operations while strengthening her own professional relationships through strategic partnership development and collaborative service provision. Sophia had gained appreciation for different forms of professional contribution and achievement, recognizing that business success and entrepreneurial excellence represented valid alternatives to traditional career paths while creating opportunities for community service and social impact through job creation and economic development. The transformation of family relationships had created opportunities for authentic connection and mutual support that enhanced both individual achievement and collective family success, while providing foundation for continued growth and development. Based on accurate understanding and genuine appreciation of each person's unique capabilities and contributions, Emma's decision to reveal the truth about TechFlow Solutions had eliminated the psychological burden of maintaining dual identities while creating possibilities for genuine family relationships based on honesty and mutual respect. The success that had been hidden for years could finally be celebrated and shared with people whose pride and support meant more than any industry recognition or financial achievement. The Rodriguez family. Sunday dinners had become occasions for strategic business discussions, professional development planning, and celebration of continued achievement rather than expressions of concern about career limitations and professional stagnation. The transformation demonstrated how authentic relationships could flourish when they were based on accurate understanding rather than systematic misunderstanding and misplaced assumptions about individual capability and professional potential. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.